Hi guys, welcome to another episode of the Grapplers Academy. Today we're back with part 2 of the Attacking Mount series, and we're going to be having a look at it from a slightly different point of view today. And we looked at how to transition to get to the mount from side control in the last episode. Now we're going to be looking at potential scenarios that the guy underneath can throw at you to start framing and either getting back to side control or getting back to a full close guard.
Yeah, so like there's typically 3, maybe 4 options that you commonly come across when someone's being mounted, and it's getting those frames back, bridging and bucking, trap and roll always seems to be something that everyone goes for, and then it's always like that awkward hip positioning movement, and it's just sometimes it can be really hard to deal with. So we're going to sort of talk about how to essentially maintain some good control in that top position.
So first off, if I'm the guy underneath and I've had my guard passed and I'm in full mount, first thing I might try and look at, for example, is trying to get my frames in and start to try and create some space to move my hips and get a half guard back, or maybe go to full re-guard. So let's say with the setup that we went through in the previous episode, so I just come to mount, and the first thing I'm going to want to try and do is get this frame back in so I can start to make some space. So my right arm, the one that's by the side of his neck, we can almost think about that in terms of a reverse seatbelt sort of position here. I kind of want to get that in and start to try and frame in and bring the elbows in tight so I can start to attack on the legs and come out through this way, either half guard or maybe even getting back to a full re-guard. So what Sai needs to do really is start to stop me from the top and keep and isolate this arm.
Yeah, so the way that I tend to do this is, as I feel, because I will keep this really tight, this underhook at the top, and as I feel that bond's trying to come across the face, I use my hand to walk the elbow past, and then I use my head to go past the elbow, and the arm that's underneath the head, go this way and touch. I'm going to reach further through and grab on the back of the shoulder, or if you can, get into the armpit here. And this is where I'm going to go super strong with my head. And those of you that like to play head and arm chokes, if you go back and watch the Theon and Matuda breakdown that we did, you'll see like a really good breakdown on how to finish the head and arm choke. But once I get to here, I'm going to go really heavy with my hips now as well. So pinching my knees here isn't going to be the most effective, whereas if I spread my knees further apart, it allows my weight to go through Bon, and I can base with this arm here. So now as Bon starts going to move around, he's trying to regain his arm, I can use my head to keep everything in place, but also because my forearm is underneath his head and I can lift it up a little bit, it takes the bridge away as well. So as Bon tries to bridge, there's a little less movement there, whereas if Bon's head's flat on the floor and he bridges, there's a lot more power going through there. So the subtle thing of just lifting his head off the floor, as Bon starts to bridge, there's a lot less power there. And I've got a great base here now. Now with this window here that I've created, I've got a lot of options to start attacking for the armbar, start taking the back, and also going in through to the head and arm choke, as well as sitting through to the scarf hold position. Now, another option that tends to happen while a player's on the bottom is, especially your bigger, more powerful players, they're going to try and catch that arm for the catch and roll. So as Bon's on top here, and I do have and he has the underhook and he's got the control here, I'm going to reach over, come on top and get hold of this arm here. Oh, sorry, yeah, I'll do it on this side. So I'm here, I'm going to come all the way over the face and catch the shoulder, and I'm going to try and bridge and roll. But Bon doesn't really want to allow me to do that to maintain his top position, so the way he's going to do it, he's going to start to re-pummel his arms and I start to grab. So when I get to here,
We need to make sure that we've got looseness in the elbows and we can try and eliminate him from clamping down on this shoulder too much. Another common position that you can find yourself in on this one is if you're staying up too high in a guard, and if Simon bridges or bucks his hips up, I can come down. This is kind of the traditional way that we see it, and then he's going to scoop up that arm from there and be essentially straight into the same position. And then it's that classic bridge and roll that you see straight away. It's one of the first things you learn, isn't it, from either like a self-defense point of view or like jiu-jitsu one-on-one basics. So when we're here, and I need to get this arm free because this is the one that he's going to attack. I also want to make sure that he can't trap this leg as well. So as I said before, the principles of widening your base and making sure that you're keeping your base evenly spread is probably one of the most important principles you can think about when you're in a mount position. A narrower base with a trapped arm is going to be very easy to roll because I can't bridge out or make any blocks. Whereas if we can spread our base out and get lower, even with the arms as well, it makes it a lot more difficult for us to get swept, and then we can start setting up the things that we're looking to go for from the top. So Si's got this reverse seatbelt position on here, and he's looking to try and tie up the arm so he can secure the trap and roll sweep. I want to make sure that I'm tucking that elbow in tight, creating frames against his neck, but more importantly, not letting him isolate off on the top. It's not something in particular that we can show in terms of a specific technique, but the general principle of not allowing your opponent to isolate limbs in the same way that you would look to do if from an attacking position on the top applies to a defensive position as well. So they're always going to be trying to look to isolate, as you should be if you're looking to attack, and the same principle applies in reverse as well.
Yeah, no, definitely, and just so you're aware as well, not everybody's going to reach over and try and go 2-on-1 with the arm. You may notice that over the second part of it, I had the bicep caught and I was going to push over the head for the bridge and roll. There's a few different ways to do it, and sort of Bond's balance and looseness in his shoulder is what's going to be able to give him that ability to catch himself if he does get that rolling position.
Yeah, it's almost a kind of a simple way for most people to think about it is the hand fighting drill that most people have probably done standing up as a warm-up. About keeping the elbows in nice and tight and not allowing yourself to get overstretched and exposed and open up spaces that can be attacked.
And there are other options that happen there, so if your partner does reframe, there are other ways to do that. But the main thing is that, especially as a top player, is trying to keep that fire underhook, and that really limits your opponent's options. So if you're taking that underhook in the same pass that we looked at last week and you're trying to keep your top position, maintain that top control on that underhook and try to avoid allowing your partner or your opponent to get the elbow back in the middle.
From the top game as well, if you're the top player in the mount, we've obviously got submission options. You've got your head and arm triangles, we've got arm bars, we've got mounted triangles that we can go for there as well. But we've also got a lot of options for taking the back, and it'll again be entirely based off your opponent's reaction. You can force those reactions and try and get them to expose positions that you want to capitalise on. So maybe in some circumstances, allowing your opponent to generate some sort of space that you can capitalise to take the back is the most preferable situation that you want to get in. But again, that depends on your game and what you want to play.
Yeah, definitely. And if there's any specific mount scenarios that you're struggling with, please let us know and we'll do our best to sort of answer your questions and give you some sort of issue, way to troubleshoot that and get out of that issue.
But just the general concepts of any position really in general, but particularly with the mount, is it's having a wide base and not allowing your opponent to utilise their hip drive underneath you to unbalance you, and then on top of that, not allowing them to isolate a limb that they can then attack. If you apply these principles to whichever position or scenario that you're thrown at by the guy on the top, and also are aware that those are what your opponent's looking for from the bottom, we can basically plan our way out of many different scenarios with that, can't we?
Yeah, definitely, and it gives you different pathways, and you kind of want to open your own gates to the pathway that you want to go down, as opposed to letting your opponent dictate that, which a good defensive player will be able to do, and in the same light, a good offensive player will be able to do the same thing as well. And if you like what you saw there, hit that like button, hit that share button, and make sure you hit us up on all the social medias, the Grapplers Academy on everything, your DSPs for your podcasts, for YouTube, for Instagram, for Facebook, and even email.
Yeah, you can hit us up on the email. Stay tuned for the remainder of the series as well, and if you've not already seen part 1 in the series, go back and watch that so you can have a better understanding of how we're progressing through the series and tying together the concepts that we've also done in other series such as the side control or attacking turtle as well.